National Assembly wades into End SARS campaign and police brutality. I'm Linda Akibe and you are welcome to the Gavel. Several protests erupted in some states across the country as Nigerians demand an end to police brutality perpetrated by police officers in the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS. There have been several reports of killings, abuse and human rights violations by SARS operatives in different parts of the country. The Senate and the House of Representatives debated the issue of police brutality and made several recommendations, one of which is that the standing committees in both chambers will investigate cases of extrajudicial killings by police officers. Now, federal lawmakers have also recommended that the police set up hotlines for Nigerians to report abuse and human rights violations committed by its officers. Now, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, has also promised that the House of Representatives will, in the next 30 days, work with the Nigerian Bar Association and some civil society organizations to draft new legislations that enables a system to hold erring police officers to account for their conduct in the performance of their duties and impose civil and criminal liability for violations of the police code. Ifeoma Abugu, allegedly illegally detained, tortured and killed by the police in Abuja in October 2020. Remo Stars Football Club player Tiyamu Kazim, also allegedly killed by officers of a Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, in February 2020. Kolade Johnson, also killed by the police in 2019, and the list goes on. It's been a sordid tale of terror unleashed by the police. In the aftermath of the latest incident involving the police and a man who was hospitalized following an alleged attempt to evade arrest in Ughelli, Delta State, the Inspector General of Police banned SARS from routine patrol and released new guidelines for its operations. The House of Representatives is also wading in, vowing to act over allegations of extrajudicial killings and other vices by SARS.
The House notes with great concern the persistent outcry by Nigerians over the brutality and human rights violations by the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, of the Nigeria Police. Disturbed by the alarming rate of unauthorized raids, extortion, stealing, frame-ups, indiscriminate search of mobile phones and other smart devices, and arbitrary confiscation and fraudulent conversion of private property of citizens to their personal use, realizes that this is a sharp departure from their core mandate of responding to cases of armed robbery, kidnapping, and other violent crises. Concerned that their activities in most cases have led to loss of property and extrajudicial killings, which is eroding public confidence in government and in governance, and diminishing our human rights and democratic credentials as a nation. Recalls that the recent deaths of Ifeoma Abugu, who was allegedly raped and murdered in FCT, Kingsley Tariwa in Port Harcourt, Daniel Ikeguchi Chibuke in Eleonore River State, Kolade Johnson and Temiyu Kazim in Lagos, Sunday Bong in Abuja, and Miracle in Inewi, to mention but a few. Deeply worried that despite repeated announcements since 14th August 2018 by police authorities to reform SARS, the problem of human rights abuses and impunity still persists within the police force. Observe that in most cases, efforts by victims and their families to seek redress or justice is greeted with concerted opposition from the police authorities, including threats to their lives. The House therefore resolves: 1, to demand the Inspector General of Police to take decisive action to stop the brutality and human rights violation by SARS and report same to the House within 3 weeks.
This kind of scenario must be revisited and ensure that we investigate properly to see how the IGP will be seated and allow our citizens to be so brutalized by the SARS group and nothing is done about it. Why I'm worried, if you look at communities, the face of security in Nigeria and in the communities are the police force. We have no any other face that showcases the character of Nigerians. And in their conduct, by collecting bribes, just like my colleague has submitted, and by brutalizing our people, create a very wrong impression of us. And this has to stop. Therefore, I will urge that during the investigation, that the committee that will be saddled with the responsibility to thoroughly investigate, to find if the money that is appropriated here is also the money that they are using to fight our people. Because if that is the correct thing, it means that our people will now indirectly feel that we are the ones killing them.
My heart goes to the people whose lives have been lost because of this rascality. And also to add that it is in this chamber that we sponsored and passed Anti-Torture Act 2017. Yet, many years after, we are talking about people taking up arms and taking people's lives. So the way to go is by what we are doing. The Constitution needs to be amended. People should take responsibility for their actions. And so once every one of us have agreed, I do not think that the executive arm or the police will have any other choice. Because once you know, even the Bible says, anyone that kills by the sword will also die by the sword. So once you know that you killed somebody and you're going to die, I think it will curb these excesses. And I wish that everybody across this nation will support this move.
You see, we should not be clouded alone with this problem of SARS alone. It's a global institutional failure of the Nigerian police force, and we must look at it that way. SARS is just a fraction of it, and it will be very not proper for us as a house to look at that aspect of it alone. Take, for example, everywhere it is written in our police stations, bail is free, and it's never free. People, they will arrest people on Friday just to keep them because they want to extort money from them, and they will slip over. Some of those people they arrested on Friday will die before Monday morning, just because some people want to make money out of them. So there are a lot of issues here.
In the Senate, a lawmaker raises a motion on the brutality of the Nigerian police, while some lawmakers, including the Senate President, prefer solutions to this problem.
Senate is concerned that Nigerian youth can no longer move freely for fear that they will be profiled and accused of being Yahoo boys or fraudsters merely because they look good, own laptops, iPhones, nice-looking cars, or profiled by having dreads or certain hairstyles. Only recently, the global and social media was awash with the #EndSARS campaign and stories of brutality of the men of the Special Anti-Robbery Response Squad. Senate further is concerned that with more Nigerian youth being involved with software development, fintech, and doing more remote jobs in the ICT, profiling by policemen is a major problem. Senate is worried that despite assurances by the Inspector General of Police in 2015 and 2017 that there will be reforms of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, Nigerians are daily still being abducted and extorted under duress with no mechanism in place for complaints and resolution of same.
Mr. President, we are beginning to wonder. Now you can't even tell when you see a SARS or members of the other police units, saving under the IG. You can't even tell the difference between them and armed robbers. Even the way they are dressed. You can't even tell who is for law enforcement and who is breaking the law. We have a constitution, and the constitution has guaranteed privacy to our citizens. If nothing else, at least the right to the contents of your telephone. is at least protected until there is a warrant for that arrest before it could be searched. But now these people have become more like extortionists, extorting money from people by going into their phones, not because they actually want to provide law enforcement, but they are looking for ways to force these people to part with money. But as that is, it is even worse that they move beyond that to want to take lives.
Very clearly, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the highest authority of the Nigerian police are aware of the activities of FSAS. And I think we have to hold them accountable. The truth is, FSAS does not seem to have any rules of engagement. And I think we know very well in a civilized society, rules of engagement defines actions and inactions.
I think police should invest in having these cybercrime training centers or schools. The reason why they must do that is to have a special squad whose responsibility is on cybercrime and cyber crime prevention. In that case, if a crime is being committed using ICT or a cyber crime is being committed, they would have had a special squad where you have trained personnel whose responsibility will be to ensure that they do it the way it ought to be done. But harassing and killing innocent kids on the streets, it's just very uncivilized and must be stopped.
Chapter 4 of our Constitution is very explicit on the issue of fundamental rights. Mr. President, if you have a closer look at our Constitution, we have about 8 rights that are clearly stated. The first one is right to life, right to dignity of human person, the right to fair hearing, the right to private family life, right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion, right to freedom of expression and the press, that anybody that commits the crime, that of course takes the life of another Nigerian, we know what the law says. You too should lose your life. If we are able to take the law to a logical conclusion, then of course we will have started on the journey of ensuring that our society get better.
The Senate recommends that the police set up hotlines for Nigerians to report abuse and human rights violations by its officers.
Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it.
It is also directing its committees on police and human rights to investigate cases of extrajudicial killings by the police. The National Assembly is mandated to oversight security agencies such as the police, but Nigerians are wondering why abuse and extrajudicial killings by the police have gone on for so long without the intervention of a National Assembly. While the National Assembly discusses solutions to ending police brutality, NSAS protests were held in different states across the country. The protesters, mostly young people, are protesting against police brutality perpetrated by the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS. The police force headquarters PRO, Mr. Frank Mba, addressed the protesters, calling for calm.
We are faced with a problem, and we are trying to address the problem. Let's try to respect ourselves, respect the fact that we are first of all brothers, we are first of all from the same community, we are first of all from the same territory. And so, when we speak to each other, let's have that at the back of our minds, so that no matter what we do, no matter the anger, we don't lose focus of what is the major thing we are chasing.
You're welcome back to the Gavel. President Buhari has presented a 13.08 trillion naira 2021 budget to a joint session of the National Assembly. The 2021 budget, however, has a deficit of 5.2 trillion naira and debt service of 3.12 trillion naira, representing 3.64% of estimated GDP, slightly above the 3% threshold set by the Fiscal Responsibility Act. President Muhammadu Buhari and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo arrived at the House of Representatives chamber. The president is here to present the 2021 budget to a joint sitting of the National Assembly. He's delivering the 2021 budget at a time of economic challenges in the country and heightened global uncertainty, which has caused dwindling revenue due to oil price fluctuations in the international markets. Nigeria's GDP growth is projected to be negative in the last quarter of the year, with fears that the country will go into a recession. President Buhari assures that government is prepared to confront these challenges and accelerate economic recovery.
The 2021 appropriation has, therefore, been themed the budget of economic recovery and resilience. Furthermore, the Central Bank of Nigeria is reducing the interest rate on its intervention facilities from 9% to 5% with 1 year moratorium till 31st March 2021 to provide concessional lending of 100 billion naira to households and small businesses.
He admits that revenue generation remains a major challenge, a point noted by the Senate in the MTEF report.
The government is already implementing several measures to overcome our fiscal constraints. In addition to the strategic revenue growth initiatives, we are leveraging technology and automation, as well as more effective monitoring of independently generated revenues.
Some parameters and fiscal assumptions in the 2021 budget include non-debt recurrent expenditure 5.65 trillion, personnel cost 3.76 trillion naira, capital expenditure 3.85 trillion, statutory transfers 484.49 billion, and sinking fund 220 billion naira. Highlights of statutory transfer include Niger Delta Development Commission 63.51 billion naira, Northeast Development Commission 29.70 billion, National Judicial Council 110 billion, Universal Basic Education Commission 70.05 billion, Independent National Electoral Commission 40 billion naira, National Assembly 128 billion naira, Public Complaints Commission 5.20 billion, and Basic Healthcare Provision Fund 35.03 billion naira. Some key allocations to government MDAs in the 2021 budget include Ministry of Interior 227.02 billion naira, Ministry of Police Affairs 441.39 billion, Ministry of Education 545.10 billion, Ministry of Defense 840.56 billion, and Ministry of Health 380.21 billion naira. Highlights of the 2021 capital projects: Power 198 billion naira, Works and Housing 404 billion naira, Transportation 256 billion, Defense 121 billion, Agriculture 110 billion, Education 127 billion, Universal Basic Education Commission 70 billion, Health 132 billion, Niger Delta Development Commission NEDC 64 billion naira. With a fiscal deficit of 5.2 trillion and debt service of 3.12 trillion naira, there are concerns about the difficulties in funding the budget as well as fiscal constraints.
I commend the president in certain allocations, like on the issue of transportation, on the area of rail, but he made mention of proposals for Calabar, Port Harcourt, Lagos rail line, but I've not heard anything specifically as allocation. But I thank God he has made a provision for Port Harcourt, Maiduguri. I believe that he's going to make allocation for that. Having said this, it is the only sad commentary
very sad comment in that budget is the issue of the amount that we are going to service debt, and we are still going to borrow.
I think we are always relying so much on borrowing to finance our budget. I know that borrowing is another way of financing, but there's no doubt about it. But it's getting so much. Like we're expecting about 4 trillion to borrow. And don't forget that we're expecting 7 trillion in revenue. And then we have to now pay debt of about 3 trillion. So you can imagine that if care is not taken, we need so much money to put in the capital so that it can reject the economy, so that activities will come and the economy will take off.
We actually do have some gaps between the oversight and the relationship between the National Assembly and the executives. If we can close this gap, we will definitely be able to align this budget. This budget needs to be brought down and connected to the realities on ground in Nigeria. Since the pandemic struck, the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of things have changed. We want to see some of the international treaties and agreements and conventions that we've signed. For instance, the Abuja Declaration that seeks to place 15% of our annual budget into the health sector. Since the pandemic struck, we will be examining this budget to ensure that it's aligned.
The most important thing is that, yes, I agree with you, we don't have enough money, and Mr. President also emphasized on that. But the most important thing here is that going forward, we must just invest on some very important areas so that we can be able to grow our economy, support small businesses, also focus on some basic issues.
Well, we have areas, agencies, of course, that generate revenue. You have MPA, you have, of course, the FIRS, you have customs and all of that. So it's now our responsibility, because we have the power of oversight, to make sure that the revenues that's supposed to go to the federal government actually does go to the federal government, that they don't overspend, and spend outside of their approved budget.
You should expect fiscal deficit because we have low revenue. The COVID affected us. Even apart from that, Mr. President did say that the greatest problem we have is revenue generation. And you know that as Committee of Finance, we have made efforts to ensure that more revenue comes into the coffers of government. And so we are also going to do a comprehensive review. The MTEF that was passed had given the committee an approval to carry out a review of all agencies as we have in this country, to determine which ones are supposed to go out of budget and which ones can sustain themselves. What we have seen mainly during our review is the fact that most agencies spend their IGR rather than remitting it to the CRF. So we believe that strongly that is not good. It's not good for us, and we cannot allow that to continue.
The Senate and House of Representatives are expected to devote time from now till the end of the year to working and passing the 2021 budget to meet the target of the one-year budget cycle for the country. Now, this is where we call it a day on this week's edition of The Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us, and see you again next week.